meeting to order. And shall I do the roll call? Or I'll just start. Yeah, go ahead.
Commissioner Abraham, could you please
Yes.
state the date and the time, please?
Oh, right. What's the date? It's February 1st. February 1st, 5:03 p.m.
Great, thank you. And I'll call the commissioners' names. If you hear your name, please say present.
Okay.
So Commissioner Abraham?
Present.
Commissioner Lees? Did we lose Kathleen?
I saw her.
Looks like it.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Redlitz?
Present.
Commissioner Seelert?
Present.
Commissioner Sims?
Present.
Commissioner Valenzuela?
Present.
Commissioner Corrales-Schmidt? And Commissioner Lees. So let the record show all commissioners are present at this time except for Commissioner Corrales-Schmidt and Commissioner Lees.
It looks like Commissioner Schmidt's joining.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay,
Hey, Michael.
thank you. Okay, so at this time, all commissioners are present except for Commissioner Lees.
Right. Okay. Oops.
Okay, I think
Should
you're
we-
seeing the agenda at this point.
Okay, should we do the Pledge of Allegiance or?
Sure.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one man,
one nation, under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with justice and
liberty
liberty
and justice for all.
for all.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hello, Kathleen. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
So Irene, if you want to move into item 4, please, that would be great.
Oh, okay. Right. So item 4 is special presentations and proclamations. And I believe that's Jennifer, are you going to speak at this time?
That would be me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. I'm looking at the old one. Sorry. Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Abraham. Thank you. Hello, Commissioners for the Arts. My name is Jennifer Campbell. I'm the Parks, Recreation, Cultural Arts Director. So tonight, I just wanted to kind of give you an update of where we are with Pacific View. I know that many of you are familiar with Pacific View. I was just going to go over a little bit of history and then basically let you know where we're at and what we're kind of looking at for some of the next steps. For those of you that may not know, the city purchased Pacific View. It basically closed in about January of 2015. And as you know, Pacific View was a former elementary school. It's located in downtown Encinitas on 3rd Street. After the city went ahead and purchased the building, the council did what's called a request for proposals. And they were looking for a nonprofit partner or group to help to activate that site. And the thought was to activate it to be an arts and culture center. So basically the city went through that process and they chose EACEA, which is Encinitas Arts, Culture and Ecology Alliance. And that was made up of different board members. They actually started a nonprofit made up of a board. And one of their jobs was to go ahead and try to activate the site and to make minor improvements, not to necessarily rebuild or to do anything major. So what the city did was we entered into an exclusive negotiating agreement with EACEA, which meant eventually the idea was to go into a lease with this group so that they could actually again, start and utilize the building. The other thing that the EACEA had was what's called a right of entry, and that did allow them to do, again, certain improvements to the building. which they did. They did some improvements. There was some fire alarm work. They did some roof repair. They had a very active group that did a lot of the landscaping outside. They kept the outside of the building. They trimmed trees, things like that. So about a year or so ago, the right of entry did expire with EACEA, and the last exclusive negotiating agreement with EACEA expired in December. With this building and this lot, there's certain zoning. And if you guys know, with the planning department, we have zoning throughout the city. Currently, the Pacific View site is zoned public, semi-public. So there are only certain uses that are allowed currently at that site. I can give you an example. For instance, obviously it was a school. It can be used for several different city buildings. It could actually be used as a park. It could be used as a fire station. It can be used as a place of public assembly or a theater. It can be used as a museum. So there's some interesting uses that are actually allowed. One of the things that EACEA wanted to do was to change some of the uses, and they wanted to enhance that. And the way to do that is to go in front of the Planning Commission to see if they can change that. So back in February of 19, EACEA went in front of the Planning Commission for what's called a major use permit, a design review, and a conditional use permit. And the idea was to activate the site as kind of an arts ecology center. And so what they actually looked at within their entitlements, that's what they're called, is they envisioned, and I wanted to go over a couple things. They envisioned that the primary use of the site was a museum, educational institution, library, theater, multi-purpose auditorium. They also had some accessory uses that would be intended to support the major uses, which were administrative offices, storage, a gift shop, a snack bar or cafe, which was outdoors, community demonstration garden, minor agricultural, horticultural production, the retail sales of various ecology and sustainability related items. They also looked at doing things such as a farmer's market, other outdoor sales, and doing some large regular events as well as some small regular events. So basically what EACA did is they did an application with this and they looked at different uses. They looked at time of day, they looked at the buildings, they had to do a parking and traffic study in order to do some of these things, because when it comes to entitlements, you have to go through a process, again, to make sure if there's any issues to mitigate them. They also went through what's called a citizen participation plan, or it's called a CPP, which is where they actually reached out to folks that are within 500 feet of the development of Pacific View. And
Jennifer,
yes.
Sorry, just before you leave the entitlements, does that change? So a change in entitlements, does that change zoning, or does the zoning remain the same?
The zoning's there, but what it does is it then allows different uses. So some uses require a major use permit and some required a conditional use permit. So when EACA went in front of Planning Commission, they were asking the city to allow all of these uses at the property. And if it would have been approved, then yes, those activities then could happen in that property.
Okay, and that technically would not change the zoning from public.
No, there would still be zoning. It would just now be what would now be allowed.
Okay.
Exactly. So the public, semi-public would still be, because again, zoning is in an area. Don't forget, so some of the areas are zoned that. So what this would do though, this would change the uses of that building to allow it. And again, some of those uses require a major use permit and a conditional use permit as well. For instance, too, with special events is handled through my department. So actually anyone who wants to do a large special event would have to come in. So yeah, it would go ahead for that building. It would change the zoning for that building to allow those uses. Yes. But
okay,
not necessarily in the overall area.
Right,
so EACEA went through that. At that time, the Planning Commission, they did want some more information, such as they wanted like a lighting study. Since EACEA talked about having music outside, they wanted a possible sound study. They were also looking at this time for a business plan. So basically, Planning Commission asked to have EACEA come back with that information before approving the project. So that happened in 19. At that point, unfortunately, I think all of us know COVID hit in March of 2020. People couldn't meet in person. A lot of things happened. Fundraising was not so easy. EACA did get several grants from the county, and they did raise some funds to do some work on the building. But the other thing that EACA realized was they really needed to have the city come in more as a partner. I mean, this is a big building. It's 2.85 acres, about 11,000 or so square feet under roof, and some outdoor areas. And they realized that one nonprofit alone maybe couldn't do this all by themselves. So we've been in talks with EACEA. They've done a lot of really good work on these entitlements to, again, change the uses of that building and to enhance the zoning, Irene, because again, you'd still have the public, semi-public for that, but again, it would enhance the uses. So we've been in talks with them to kind of take over the entitlement process. Because again, they've got a lot of good ideas for uses of the building, but it is really hard for a nonprofit. As you know, a lot of the folks on that board do have full-time jobs and things like that. They're obviously very dedicated. They do love arts, culture, ecology, horticulture, but they do realize that they need the city to kind of step in and be a bit more of a partner. So one of the things that we're doing is we're now working with EAC on entitlements. The other thing that we did back in January of 2020 before COVID hit was we did a community meeting with the board members of EACEA. I know that there were some arts commissioners as well in the audience. I remember seeing you folks. And one of the two things that we talked about was that we were going to do a community survey to find out, you know, to see people's interest again in what they wanted to see at the center. As well as we knew we needed to do kind of a cost estimate. The building is very old, and as you know, we have a definitely different building standards today than we did back then. So there's some things that we have to do to kind of get the building back up to code and make sure it's usable for different programs. So we did go ahead and do the survey, and there was about 471 people that did take that survey. And generally about 75% still really like the idea of having it as an arts and culture center. It basically, performance space was one of the bigger things that folks looked for. So again, a place to have performances. But there was a lot of other ideas. I mean, there was stuff like being a park and being parking and being housing and being a swimming pool and a bowling alley. And, you know, and again, a lot about having arts and culture. Yeah, there was, you know, when you ask an open-ended question, what else could you see? And there's 471 people, you get a lot of different answers. So it was really interesting. You know, one of the other questions that we asked is, what are some of your concerns? And some people had concerns about like traffic and noise and things like that. One of the things with the entitlements is right now it was going to be CEQA exempt is what they had. But part of that though, and that's the reason that Planning Commission wanted some additional studies, because you know, you do look at some of the issues that you have, and if there's a way to do a study to look at the impact, and then there's also ways to mitigate that impact. So for instance, if there was something with a lighting study and they were worried about light overflow or being too bright, you know, there's definitely things that you can do to help shield some of the light. Again, there's noise, there's things that help keep noise in, there's things that help noise bounce off of. So there are ways in which you can mitigate some of the issues. The other part was an EIR, an environmental impact review, was not done for the site, and they didn't have to do that for the entitlements. And part of an EIR is to look at that, but if there's a way to do different studies and to get in front of that, a lot of times you don't have to do a full-blown EIR if you are able to look at some of the issues and you're able to do some studies and prove what you need to do and to mitigate those issues. So that was one of the other things that they did. So basically, like I said, at this point, we don't have an ENA with EACEA anymore, or a right of entry. So the city has been taking care of the facility, and facilities has done some work. We have a new security system there as well. We've done some work. Our landscaper, is taking care of the outside. Our public works department works on the straw wattles and things like that. So basically what we're looking at too is, you know, kind of where does this fall as a priority? I'm not sure if any of you folks tuned in. There was a meeting in January to talk about the city manager's work plan. And all of 5 of the council members said that Pacific View, they really want to, get this up and activated. One of the other things we did is we had our Public Works Department do a rough estimate of some work that needs to be done. So it's everything from, ventilation, ceiling tiles, carpet, some paint, and so, we're talking, we basically have given, I've given an estimate to Pam, and it's considerable, we're talking about that. So the good news is we're going into a 2-year budget cycle where we start to look for new money. A lot of it is to do, restroom renovation, again, ADA upgrades, things like that to make the building occupiable. And so there's a couple things. There's kind of like short-term use and long-term use of the building. So the good news is right now what we have planning looking at is we've got planning looking at what are some of the uses we can do in the building right now without having to go and change the entitlements and to, enhance the zoning to allow different things for that building. So there are certain things we can do. So we're looking at that, number one, to see what we might be able to do for short-term uses. Secondly, we are looking to go ahead and go to council to ask them to appropriate some money for, repair and restoration of the building to get it up and running. Then kind of long-term use is we're looking over the entitlements that EACEA had and some of the uses to see if this is still something that, are we going to go down that path and that the city still wants to pursue, because we know that there's definitely other opportunities with EACEA, but it's good that the city takes the lead. Our planning department would obviously be instrumental in helping that. We're also looking at any more studies that we need to do to, again, help mitigate some of the concerns that some of the residents nearby have. But it's good because Pacific View is a priority. We know for the community, we know for council, and I think we're going to see some really good movement happening with that. And I know that obviously as Commission for the Arts, with it being art and cultural uses, you folks are definitely interested. And I know that Jim had asked me in January, we just didn't really have a good update, but now I'm able to have a better update and be able to tell you that, council's definitely looking at this closely, and that we want to, have that activation. I will say, we've had some vandalism there and we've got some people hanging out. And I think, the sooner that we can get some activation, that helps when the building is being occupied and used so that it isn't necessarily a hangout. But people are getting better, but we do want to see that city facility, start to be activated and used. So that's basically kind of where I'm at. One of the other things that you folks can always look at is, like I said, the EACA went in front of the Planning Commission on February 21st of 19. It's a really long report. It's 254 pages, but at least you can pull up the link on Planning Commission if you want to still look at kind of some of their proposals and what they talk about.
Well, are they going to still be involved with the Pacific View then if their right to entry hasn't been renewed on that?
Yeah,
or is it another organization? Yeah.
No, Commissioner Abraham, they still are involved. We definitely still want to go ahead and obviously talk to them. One of their members, the president, John DeWald, he's a developer, so he does know a lot about zoning and building and things like that. And then of course they've got some folks on there that are artists as well. So we will be talking to them a lot because, again, these are their entitlements. And just so you know, EACA still owns those entitlements. So we would work with them to figure out what we do with the information. And, if the city will take those over and become an applicant. But, EACA realizes that, they need more of the city to partner with that. And I think, that that's important. And that's a realization they came to. But, we talk about it. Partners are great. And I think there's several nonprofits in the city besides EACEA and things like that. So I'm sure going down the path, there will be a lot of discussions about a lot of different partnerships that we can, basically look to endeavor to.
Jennifer, I had a question about that. What was it called exactly? The exclusive agreement that they had with the city?
It's called an exclusive negotiating agreement, or an ENA. Commissioner Schmidt? Yes. Yeah.
ENA. Okay, and so that's expired, right? Is that something that they're looking to get again, or that'll come up again?
I don't know at this time. We have not discussed that further with the EACEA.
Gotcha.
But the one expired in December currently.
Okay. Thank
Is
you.
is there any way that the commission could see the results of the survey? You know, get
I can go ahead
like
and
a
see
summary?
if I can. Yeah,
Yeah.
I see if I can get you a summary of the results. I can see. If we
Okay,
can-
good, because I know we've talked a lot about getting, you know, the performance venue and getting our visual arts venue. And I'm just interested to see what how that turned up in the survey.
I would very much like to see that too, because people talk to us and it would be nice, excuse me, if we had some information. People ask questions. And so if we can have the information or a general idea of what the survey says, that would be very helpful.
Okay.
Right now, so right now, I wonder if you can go over the entitlements again, because that went by me a little quickly that they are currently have.
Sure. Well,
Oh,
ahead.
sorry. I just want to say, I also found that a little confusing that you're saying that EACEA owns the entitlements, but now the city's taking over the entitlement process and deciding which entitlements get granted to the land. I'm definitely confused by that, by the property.
Sure. So what it is so what they did was EACA went in front of the Planning Commission to, again, the zoning on that is public, semi-public, and it only allows certain uses. So what they were going to do is through major use permits and coastal development permits and whatnot, they were going to allow additional zoning. So EACA owns the information that they've done. Okay, so they actually haven't gotten entitlements to the property yet. That's what they applied for.
Oh, they don't have them yet.
No,
Oh,
that's
so,
what, so
okay.
remember, yeah, because it went to Planning Commission in 19. They needed to come back with information. EACA never returned yet to get those entitlements.
Okay.
So, so Commissioner Schmidt, yeah, so EACA owns that information. That is theirs. So one of the options is, you know, they know that they need city, good, he's got a thumbs up. I appreciate that. So one of the things is they know that the city has definitely a lot more resources. So it's basically looking at the information that EACA has. Is it valuable to the city? Could we take that over and things like that? But they would have to grant that to us because they did put a lot of time and effort and they had to pay consultants to do a lot of the work.
I see.
Yes.
Chris, and am I correct in what I understand to be that one reason they're limited in how many kinds of funds they have is because they only have a temporary for so long agreement with the city that they can go in and do what they need to do. So it's hard for them to go out and get additional funding when they can't even make any long-term plans because they don't even know for sure that they're going to have the right of access after a certain point. So that was what I always understood. And also I think that the zoning means that it comes with certain things you can do on that property by right. But if you want to do anything else, there's a whole list of other things you can do. And some of those require a minor use permit. Some of them require a conditional use permit, and some of them require a major use permit. Am I missing anything? Is that it?
You did. No, she did fantastic. And just so you folks know, what's actually in that report is, well, actually, I actually did a report. Those of you that attended, and I want to make sure, those of you that attended, who attended the meeting in January of 2020?
I didn't even know about it.
Okay, because I remember some of you were there, and I'm pulling up.
Which meeting was that?
Yeah, let me get the exact date. So it was on January. So if you guys go back, this is another good one. I love directing folks to links.
Okay.
On January 29th of 2020, we did the joint meeting with EACEA and the City Council. In that, I put a whole zoning matrix. So for your reference, you'll be able to look up. It's huge. It's huge. I think I recall correctly. I went ahead, I think in that report, we highlighted all the public, semi-public, and when it has an X in it, it means that it can be, you know, it'll tell you can do that. And then as Commissioner Lee said, there are things that require a minor use permit, a CDP, a major use permit. So you'll be able to see that. So like I said, there are certain uses that are allowed on that site. But like as Irene said, I mean, really what it does, Irene, is in that, you know, the zoning is still there, the public, semi-public, but with different permits and going, you can change the use of the property, but it will also always remain public, semi-public as well. You can still continue to have those uses.
So
Do
since
those carry over
Yeah, go
from,
ahead.
I'm sorry,
No, go ahead.
would the approval of a major minor use permit, would that carry over from one nonprofit agency to another one taking over? Or would
Well,
the second one, if somebody like a new owner, if you were selling the property, would that be transferable to the new, whoever else came on to do it? Or does that go to the specific nonprofit organization
Well, so from what I
or the
understand,
city?
Commissioner Lees, so when, if let's say you go to Planning Commission with entitlements for this property, it's with the property. So now that property then has that new, you know, has the new uses. Exactly.
Okay.
And since nothing's been granted yet, because again, entitlements have not actually been approved. Yeah, but it's with the building, it's with the actual property. Would go with that.
Good. Thank
So
you.
since the city is trying to activate the space now, are they going to go to the planning committee to get, you know, these entitlements?
Yeah, so what we're doing is currently right now we're in talks with EACEA on, you know, looking at the entitlements and working with them to see if they will, you know, let the city take the entitlements. And yeah, at that point, if we were to do that, we would relook at some of the uses. You know, one of the things is all the work that EACEA did, if you intensify the use, some of the studies may not still work. If, of course, you lessen the use or the intensity, it should still be okay. So one of the things that we would want to check out as city staff is to make sure that any of the studies and all the current information would still be okay with some of the proposed uses, Commissioner Abraham. Anything you do that would intensify it, you may need some more studies.
And they're so expensive to get.
They can be.
So one question, these entitlements, from what I understand, they're exclusive to one MBO, and exactly what do they entitle that nonprofit organization to do? I'm just trying to figure if does it entitle them to throw a certain event that involves you know, sound or something that needs to be studied? Can entitlements be granted to different nonprofit organizations, or is it just going to be the EACEA that holds those entitlements?
Well, so at this point, Commissioner Sims, EACEA has recognized that they need help with this. So depending on what happens, the city may take over. So it would be a city project and the city would have the entitlements.
Oh,
and again,
okay.
it would go with the building.
Understood.
So a nonprofit wouldn't own the entitlement. The building has the entitlement.
Understood. And then the nonprofit would apply for usage.
Yeah. So, you know, so one of the things was, you know, there's a couple things with Pacific View. It's about, you know, what uses are permitted now. It's about renovating and restoring the building to, you know, possibly get uses that are currently allowed. And then there's a whole thing about doing the entitlements for different uses. And then of course, looking at different operating agreements. You know, there's many different models. I mean, there's some where cities run centers, there's some where nonprofits. A lot of times there's where you can have several nonprofits or different groups that go ahead and could be part of that as well. And I mean, the city is always very interested in partnerships. I think that you've seen that we've got a lot of those. So it may not just be one nonprofit. I mean, that's part of what it is too. I think it's just trying to maximize the facility. And I think as a city, you know, we understand that we have only so many resources. And the nice part about you've got, you know, sometimes you have private entities, public entities, and nonprofit entities. And sometimes when you bring the three together, you can leverage what each of those three organizations can do best. Because, you know, there's so many things that nonprofits can do that a city can't do or a private organization couldn't do. But when you do that kind of trifecta of a partnership, you can really leverage a lot of great things to get things started.
Right.
But what's the, I mean, the, you know, since I think it was envisioned as a, you know, arts and cultural center, it's going to be very critical which nonprofits are allowed to working at Pacific View, and how is that going to be vetted?
Well, for instance, when they found EACEA, they did what's called a request for proposal. And I think some of you are familiar because of with some working with the artist, you guys know that. Yeah, anytime the city usually does that and we solicit, we have a very public process, whether it's a request for proposals, a request for qualifications, we do requests for bids. So Commissioner Abraham, yeah, those are public processes where it's open to everyone. You develop a scope of work. Obviously you want to have criteria because especially if you have different groups, you want to make sure that you're getting the right ones. So you get to set the criteria, maybe experience, education of the folks, board makeup, things like that. So it would be a transparent and public process though.
Yeah, I guess I know as a member of the commission, I'd be really interested in being, kept in the loop on this so that, do you have any thoughts about the, having a performance space at Pacific View? And
well, I mean, like I said, that is one of the, that was one of the things that came up. And I, Jim and I have heard that too. Obviously, I would love that if the community center could be utilized a little bit more for some of that in the meanwhile. But yeah, I mean, I think the thing about it is Pacific View is only so big. So depending on, later on with the buildings, I think with EACEA, they had a performance auditorium that was about 99 or 100 seats. So it depends on what you're looking for. One of the things I think that, and I can also just let you know, update you, is we are in talks. We do have an exclusive negotiating agreement right now with North Coast Repertory Theater for Lot 16. And that would be like a 350 seat theater. So that
but would the community be able to use that, or would that be
well, that would be something that could be discussed with a lease. That could be a lease discussion. But obviously, North Coast Repertory Theater, obviously they do want to make money. They're a theater company. They do a lot of performances. So, but it would see if it's always great to ask for possible community use. But I think as far as Pacific View, I mean, you couldn't fit a 300 seat theater.
Right. No, and I think we have to look at Encinitas totality work, and this has been something I've heard as long as I've been on the commission. And the people who want to join the commission is that one of their big concerns is a performance venue in the city, which we don't really have.
Irene,
we don't even have a really small one. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, I mean, as far as what I've seen from the proposals from the EACEA, that the way they want to run it is very much in a way that a community group could easily come in to do some kind of a performance or a class or rental of the space, as long as they eventually get the entitlements and are able to do the kind of things that they want to. That seems very in line with their plans.
Yeah,
it's a big financial commitment though to build a facility, so you have to, and I guess it's a question whether the city can participate in that as well as the EACA, or any other group.
Yeah, and again, EACA's work, they've worked really hard over, many years. They've had some board switches, from different members, and you want to acknowledge that they've done a lot of good work. And I mean, I definitely think that they're still, interested in being in that. It's just, again, it's just figuring out. I think there's certain things, the city needs to, do some rehab and renovation and work on that. And again, having a planning department and having some of that knowledge. I think they just recognize that they want the city, they need the city as a partner. But they also recognize too that there's a lot of really other good groups out there in Encinitas as well.
Jennifer, I had another question. So, these are very old buildings, and you said that there's been at least some investigation into how much it might cost to get, baseline repairs, renovations so that it could be utilized. Has there been any kind of talk about how long something like that might last, or what a long-term plan at Pacific View might look like?
Yeah, so I think part of it is, Commissioner Schmidt, and, thank you for the question. I mean, I think there's certain renovation that needs to be done to, to again, get the use up and running. And then I think there's going to be things on, making it more aesthetically pleasing or upgrading it more. I think I think of, I guess, the community center, which was a building built back in like 2002, and now there's even more technology and things like that. So I think once the building's up and running and there's some activity that can happen, we'll have to bring some consultants in. I mean, we really will. We'll have to bring some consultants in to look at that. And again, long term, I know that those buildings are very near and dear to some folks. So it's like, is there a way to expand upon those buildings? Can you go up? Is there, the parking lot's really big. Is there a way to, build other buildings? So what we would probably do, Commissioner Schmidt, is we would definitely have a consulting firm come in. And there was actually some work done already. I found several reports on Pacific View, and there was definitely some alternatives, whether, do you want to keep the buildings, demolish them? Could you make them bigger? But the thing about that is those studies were done like 15, 16. And I think, as we all know, construction costs have risen quite a bit. So we definitely have old studies, and those are good. We'd probably look to expound upon them and probably have a consultant relook to see what's still feasible and where we could go. But I think, like I said, the renovation and rehab right now is your ADA, bathrooms, carpet, ceiling tiles, making sure basically kind of your life safety and making sure that, that the buildings are at least up to code.
Okay, thanks. I'd really be interested in seeing the city come up with a specific plan for Pacific View to really, have some kind of a really long-term vision of the place that, to where it could be elevated in the future. But, that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, and I do think, like I said, we've kind of had to look at Pacific View as, kind of short-term and long-term. And I think that plan will be there, Commissioner Schmidt, is to like, okay, down the road, what do we want? And like I said, there's so many people have so many different opinions. And, one of the big things right now that's happening is there's so many nonprofits popping up in Encinitas or have been around and looking for a home. And, there's so many interesting things that can be done at Pacific View and many different areas. And we're talking arts and culture and ecology and just, whatever it is. It's like, we know Encinitas is such a dynamic, really, like, I always think of it as like really a community space, and arts and culture is community and everything. So it will definitely be interesting to, see kind of how this evolves as well.
If I recall, the original land grant giving it to the community, because we weren't a city or even a county yet, was that it be in perpetuity for the benefit of the citizens that lived in the area. That's why we wanted to save it.
Good stuff.
Jennifer, can you tell us what the estimate is currently for the renovations? You said you had some, there was a study
so again,
about for the short term. Yeah.
Public Works did a rough estimate. It would be over $1 million.
For renovations.
Yeah.
For the short term.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and again, that was a rough estimate. So what we would likely do is have someone come in and relook at everything to make sure that those numbers are right.
Mm-hmm.
But, Public Works has had some knowledge. We've done some renovation just lately at City Hall. So kind of looking at some current prices and numbers. And just to let you know, at one point, we had our building safety official walk through the building, our fire marshal, risk, we had facilities. So we've done a couple walkthroughs to kind of identify some areas. So they're based off of that, Commissioner Abraham.
Yeah.
But
Thank
we
you.
want to tighten those up.
Yeah.
From previous reports I've heard, it's well built. It's just old. And it's more like the electrical and the plumbing and that sort of thing that need to be. And there's some asbestos in the tiles, right? Under the tiling on the floor.
That would need to be tested. Yeah, we would test that. And of course, back when the school was built, obviously ADA was 1990. That school was built well before that. So we want to go ahead and do that. And there's some HVAC, exactly. There's some HVAC and ventilation things as well.
we definitely want to make sure it's ADA compliant, because that's a large part of the community that we need to make sure are welcome and can
Yeah.
enjoy the space.
That's being inclusive. Mhm.
Fantastic.
You know, so I know you folks have
Okay.
been kind of, yearning for an update. And it just, I didn't have much. We were doing some talking. I was excited to see it on the city manager's work plan. As you know, I became the liaison to EACA a couple years ago. And like I said, the group's done a great job. And I there's a lot of interest by the community. There's a lot of interest by council. And I'm just excited to continue to move this along and, totally want to keep you folks in the loop, and depending on whatever opportunities arise to include you as an arts commission, other commissions, one of the things that the city, in my opinion, and I know our department too as well, it's that public process. It's so important to involve your community, and I know that council finds a lot of value in that. I know our department does as well, and so that's something we want to continue.
Yeah, I know that some of the commissioners here, including myself, sit on the board of the Friends of the Arts, and I know they'd expressed interest in being involved, for a while with Pacific Views. So it'd be great to, be kept in the loop of what's happening so we can inform them when the time comes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so actually just having you here giving this report is really so beneficial for us to hear.
Yes, thank you.
To get a kind of.
Well, thank you for your patience. Like I kept telling Jim, I don't have anything. And then, and talking, I know that you folks were very interested, and I know that you're very supportive of everything, but I wanted to come and be able to tell you, it's a very intricate process. You just, Commissioner Lisa Shager, it just, there's so much to it. And I think sometimes folks don't know how much has to go in. And I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to tell you kind of what we've been working on, what that group has worked on, and just some of the things that the city still needs to do as well. So I appreciate that opportunity to be able to talk to you folks.
Yeah, I hope you can come back.
You can come back anytime. You don't really have to have a lot to tell us. We're just happy to see you.
And I mean, anytime, we would love to give input too, when it's appropriate. And
you folks have been doing a great job, with the public art. I just want to commend all of you on Santa Fe. What a great win. And I'm so excited. I think Jim will probably let you know, Encinitas Boulevard's going to council on the 10th.
Yes,
which is fantastic. So, and just so you know, El Portal's on its way too. So, I mean, I just think it's fantastic. I'm so excited. I've been in the city 4.5 years, and this is how many public art projects that are getting done. So it's so exciting to see it.
You brought us, you brought us some oomph going forward. You've kind of moved us forward. It takes so long when you're doing anything, there's so many things to be considered with anything that you do in the community, or a park or a highway or anything, or an old school. Mm-hmm. But you know what? I've been paying attention for a long time, and looking back, I can see that it's really frustrating that it takes so long. But in the long run, except for the fact that building costs keep going up, it's really better that it happens at the pace that it happens at, because then everybody really has a good idea of what's going on and what the issues are, and everybody has a chance to put their input in, and the long-term perspective.
Thank you, Jennifer, for coming out. I just wanted to make mention that wait, am I glitching? Can you guys hear me? Sorry.
Yes.
You guys can hear me? Sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to make mention that I'd wanted to make commission member initiated agenda report today, and I actually prepared something with Jeff and Navardo, and Jennifer actually reached out to kind of update us, and we wanted to really get a better picture of what's going on Pacific View before we made that report. So we'll definitely be doing that next March, and I feel a lot more informed now, especially with regards to what the relationship is with EECEA and the city. So thanks a lot for that thorough report, Jennifer.
I appreciate it, Commissioner Schmidt. I appreciate, like I said, having that opportunity to come and speak to you folks. And I know you've got 2 speakers as well.
Yeah, and just
good.
personally, I'm really excited that the city's putting this as a high priority and that you're working on this. I'm really excited to see what everyone's done there at the Olympus Park that's going to be open soon, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
You guys are doing good stuff.
we are. We're trying.
Is there a date for
Yeah.
Olympus Park yet, Jennifer?
Well, so I don't want to get too far off the agenda. Crystal Roth will tell me
Great.
that we are now off the agenda topic. Kathleen, I can
Yes.
certainly,
Sorry.
you'll get an email soon. You'll get an email soon.
Thank you. Okay, that's good.
Okay, are there anything else you want to say, Jennifer?
Oh, no, I know you have 2 speakers in case there's anything
Right.
else I'd like to
Is
stay
there
on to hear the speakers.
Any other questions from the commission members? No, in that case, I guess we can go on to oral communications. And
All right, great. We have
All right.
2 speakers. The first speaker will be Naime Woodward, and then the second speaker is Deanne Saybeck. And each speaker, just as a reminder, you have 3-minute time limit, and you'll hear a timer chime at the end of your 3 minutes to let you know that the speaking time has expired. So Naime, you are up first.
Naomi, I think your mic is silenced.
Unmute. Okay.
There
Can
you
you
are.
guys hear me?
yes.
Well, hello, you all.
Hi, Name.
Hello.
It's so nice to see you guys. It's been a while. Well, for
Naime.
the record, my name is Naime Woodward, and I'm the president of Encinitas Friends of the Arts. It certainly has been a while, and I haven't been to one of these meetings, and I appreciate art commissioners on our board, so I get reports. But I wanted to come to this meeting, and you kind of got a lot of my answers through Jennifer and your guys' questions. I just wanted to express our excitement because of the activation of Pacific View. And I'm encouraged with the city's pivotal role in making this happen. And I want to reiterate that Encinitas Friends of the Arts, as a partner with the city, we wish to be engaged and support this activation through arts programming and however we can do. Realistically, our mission has been to advocate and fundraise for the city-owned arts venue. And I believe Pacific View is our only one that's left for us. So we want to do whatever we can to make that into a reality on behalf of all the artists and the arts community. And we've been a solid organization. We're in the blacks, and in spite of all the challenges we had last year, we were able to provide wonderful programmings. And we're grateful to the city for all the support they give us and for you all, for your support. But we do want to be engaged in the Pacific View conversation and whatever we can do to move it forward and learn about how we can get engaged. So the report was very helpful. I'm grateful, and I look forward to perhaps getting more detailed information about the survey and how we can be engaged. And that's about it. That's what I wanted to say. And it's wonderful to see you all. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hey.
Thanks,
We have
Name.
Do we have another speaker?
Deanne as
Deanne.
well, right?
Dan, I
Deanne
think your mic
Deanne,
is
you're muted.
muted.
Okay. Now, mostly I just want to back up Naomi. We are, we were the founding board members of EFA. And so this is, really very dear to our hearts and always has been ever since this came up. We fought for it so hard. And I just, I know that sometimes when things just take too long and have a hard time getting started, they sort of lose the energy. And I think this has been happening, and I understand it's really complicated. I just, I don't want to see this lose the focus of it being an arts and culture center. I really don't want to see a bunch of other things get kind of thrown into the mix, just because I think once you dilute it, it's going to be, not have the power it should have. And I think that what is missing in the town, our wonderful little community of so creative people, is such a center and something that could include all of the arts, visual, performing, cuisine. I mean, so many creative things. But it's really important that it stays focused on the creative arts, and things like a municipal art gallery, where people can exhibit, some kind of performance space, classrooms. Those were all the things that we advocated for right in the beginning. And I really don't want to see that lose focus. So yes, I think, Jennifer, if you can keep us in the loop and keep us as involved as possible, both the Arts Commission and Encinitas Friends of the Arts, because we do want to be involved, and I think we have a lot to contribute. So thank you so much for doing this presentation and giving us a little bit more idea of what's going on. And thanks, commissioners, for keeping up with it.
Okay.
Thanks for
Thank
stopping
you,
by.
Jim.
Dean. Great to see you at Arts.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm missing you all.
Yeah, we miss you too.
Thanks, Deanne.
Mhm.
Thank you, folks. I'm gonna sign off. Thank you so much for allowing me to be at your meeting.
Thank you.
And I'm here for you if you have any more questions or anything. Please reach out. And thank you so much for all you do.
Thank you.
Thank you for your report very much. Shall we move on to approval of the minutes? Is there any discussion of the minutes?
I read the minutes and they seemed, they coincided with the notes that I took, so I could move to approve the minutes.
Do we have a second? I'll second the approval of the minutes. All in favor? Or do we have to do we have to do
Yes.
a roll call?
Yes, please. I'll call commissioners' names, and if you could say aye if you approve. Commissioner Abraham?
Aye.
Commissioner Corella-Schmidt?
Aye.
Commissioner Lees?
Aye.
Commissioner Redlitz?
Aye.
Commissioner Seelert?
Aye.
Commissioner Sims?
Same.
And Commissioner Valenzuela?
Aye.
Let the record show the minutes are approved, 7-0.
I wasn't at the
And
last
we-
meeting, that's why I abstained, so you know, Commissioner.
Oh, I thought you said same. I'm sorry.
No, I said
Okay.
abstain just because I was off the grid, wasn't there. Sorry about that, thanks.
Oh, thank you for clarifying. So the record is 6-0 with Commissioner Sims abstaining.
Then moving on, we can hear about the arts work plan. Jim, you can enlighten us.
Certainly. Great, wonderful. Okay. Great. Are y'all seeing this?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. All right. Okay. So moving on, I'm just going to scan through the work plan and speak to the stuff that's where we've seen action since our last meeting. As far as public art goes, I've got some interesting news for you. The Santa Fe Undercrossing, an environmental organization was recommended to the city to consider applying. They offer a series of awards, and so one of them is in public art, and it's about civic engagement and the use of unique public art in the environment and creating destination locations, et cetera, placemaking. And so we looked at, the organization is called EDRA. I'm not remembering how that spells out, unfortunately, but we have completed an application in the public art area for Santa Fe Avenue, and we'll be turning that in the next couple of days. And so who knows? We might be seeing some recognition of the Santa Fe undercrossing from this organization. So that would be very, very exciting. It's always nice to be able to identify a project as an award-winning project. So
that'd be very cool.
Great.
Yeah. So, you know, fingers crossed. And, you know, it's also nice to have gone through this effort once, because then you've got your boilerplate application and all the materials. They have this interesting requirement that you cannot say the name of the applicant in any of your material, because they want the panelists to not have any indication of where this is or who the applicant is. Well, what was challenging for us is the word Encinitas is everywhere on this project, because it's called Encinitas Up Close, and it's located in Encinitas, and the city of Encinitas is the applicant. And every artist, in talking about their idea for their artworks, was about where they are in Encinitas. So we had to like put, you know, black out every Encinitas whole document. Yeah.
It's like a heavily redacted FBI report, huh?
Exactly. It looks major redactions. Yes, that's right. So anyway, we'll keep you posted on that. And yeah, you don't win any money or anything. You actually get to send one person to their Zoom conference. But I think it's nice to, you know, yeah. Okay. But if we can say that we won something, that's all the better. Okay, wonderful.
Absolutely.
I've got a great report for you. The sculpture pedestals, the 5 concrete sculpture pedestals, the bid was awarded to a company called Tri Group Construction, and today they started building the sculpture pedestals. So real excited about that. The first one that's going in, the first one that's going in is on Lone Jack Road. And if you've ever been out on Lone Jack and you've seen our wonderful equestrian park, just at the entrance there, you're going to see one of our sculpture pads in a nice little fenced garden area, very central, visible from Lone Jack. So that's nice because you know, there's so many people. That's such a busy street. So I'm glad about that. Then of course the next nearest one is on El Camino Real, the next one is on Rancho Santa Fe.
Yeah,
Avenida La Posta, which is right at our Sun Vista Park site. And so when you drive El Camino or Rancho Santa Fe, you will see our sculpture, which is great. The next one is going on Encinitas Boulevard, just next to the community center. It's actually the entrance to the Oakcrest Park, and there will be a concrete pedestal there. The next one is on Vulcan, as you're driving through Little Oaks Park, and just when you're about to reach La Costa, that park has an actual location, a small circular area, and a pedestal will go there. And then the 5th one is going on Liverpool and Newcastle on the corner in the public's right of way, and that's directly across from the Cardiff Library. This contractor is going to move very quickly. Really thrilled to work with them, and I would anticipate that in a couple of weeks, they, you know, barring weather issues, they should be able to pound these out, and they will have plenty of time to cure. And then the next phase of this project will be that, and we're working on budget now for the city. So I will pull together a budget for us to go out and find 5 sculptures that the city will basically be on loan to the city, where we pay the artist a stipend, and each sculpture would be on location for a 2-year period of time. That requires that the city will be insuring it, we'll be paying for installation, de-installation, and we'll be paying the artist a stipend for each year that we have it. And also the artworks will be available for sale. I think all of them will be. So we're excited about that. So it's possible that someone might want to buy it. I know that Friends of the Arts is also actively interested in perhaps purchasing one of those sculptures. We anticipate that if the council approves the money, and I imagine it's looking positive, the money would be available July 1, and then that is when we would release the RFP for artists to submit images of their designs. And we're hopeful that we can, get this rolling pretty quickly. Again, the commission would be engaged in the selection process. We would probably pull together a public art committee to vet the applications. But I would love to see the selected 5 sculptures be installed in early fall of this year. So,
Jim, would this be a good time to ask you about, it seemed like Jeff has so much experience doing public art, and Irene commented that how he had set up the protocol for selecting the art. And I'm wondering if, because none of us, or we're not all always going to have someone with Jeff's background on the commission, if it wouldn't be a good idea to set up a protocol to follow for selecting public art.
It's certainly.
Is there a way to do that, to have an official protocol?
Well, are you talking about what would be the selection criteria? Is that where you're going?
Selection, yes, and the process.
Yeah. Yeah, and we follow this model pretty consistently with every one of our projects. We did it with Santa Fe and with Encinitas Boulevard, where there are applications, they're reviewed, evaluated, and selected. So that's more or less our process. But these pedestals are going to pose an interesting challenge in that we can only accept artworks from artists that will fit on a 16-inch steel plate with 4 bolts. So it's going to be rather restrictive in what we can select. They're all going to be vertical. They can be up to, I think, about 18 feet tall. But again, it's going to be, I would think there would be a pretty small pool of artworks that will fit the parameters of being able to be locked down on a 16-inch plate that is bolted into the pedestal.
Jim, this is Irene. Have you considered that some artists might actually want to submit a proposal and then construct it later? So it might take more than 3 months.
We have been approached by a really respected local artist who said, I'm very interested in this project, and they may not have an existing piece in existence. They might be submitting a rendering. I think that's important for the Public Art Committee and the Commission to weigh, what parameters do we want to have? Do we want to welcome artworks that have yet to be created? Or do we want to define it to pieces that are already in existence?
Yeah, I think that's an important discussion.
Yeah, so that, again, when we're starting to talk about the RFP, which I would think will happen later this spring, because we will want to have it ready to go for a July 1 launch. But those are the parameters you all need to consider.
Right.
And you're exactly right. If they can't do a quick fabrication, then we may be installing when those artworks
in sequence, right? Because not a lot of artists are going to have their art just hanging an 18-foot sculpture hanging in their garage.
And I think the city has the kind of flexibility to say, hey, if this selected artist has this piece and it's going to take 3 or 4 months to fabricate, I think that it's possible to be flexible to allow that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And one of the existing sculpture pad that is our model is the one in front of the Self-Realization bookstore. And that artwork by Jeffrey Laudenslager, EFA has raised about $38,000 toward their ultimate goal to fund it. So they're moving that project along, and hopefully by the end of this fiscal year, by June, they will complete their fundraising goal, and that might become that would be gifted to the city as part of our permanent collection. So that's exciting. And then we would have a total of 6 of these sculptures around the community. And who knows? I mean, I think we've seen real success with our Santa Fe project. You all know how beautiful the Encinitas Boulevard design is, and I would think that we would have two really outstanding successes there. And perhaps there's once we get these sculptures in, perhaps there's a phase 2 down the road. You know, we shall see. I think it would be I think in the long-term goal of this program, it could be very exciting if each of those pedestals has a permanent piece of art that the community has embraced and enjoyed, and we were able to locate funding to purchase them. But we're starting the program as this rotating exhibit. You know, every 2 years the artwork comes in and goes out. Okay. And let's see if there's anything else up here I need to report on.
I just wanted to add that the Botanic Garden is a good model for that, and they have their sculpture exhibit every year, which is
I don't believe
change.
Yes, I'm not quite sure what the status is of that sculpture exhibition, but it's great that we're moving forward with stuff. And that pretty much wraps up what we've been working on this past month for the work plan. But I do want to let you know that we have 3 commissioners who are I think all 3 of you have reapplied. And in March, the City Council will make appointments, and then we will begin in April the process to create your next year's work plan. And so be thinking about some activities. I think it might be advisable, since Pacific View is coming online in a greater way. We don't currently have Pacific View on your work plan.
Yeah, Jim, I got language for that if you want to hear it.
Well, hold on to it, and
okay.
Because yeah, I think you're gonna want to add it to your next year work plan for sure.
And also the theater pad as well.
The theater pad, okay.
Yeah, definitely want to keep our eyes on that one. I didn't know there was any developments with that till Jennifer mentioned that. That's awesome.
Terrific. Okay, well that wraps up item 8A.
Well, is it possible to add anything to the agenda, Jim? Just to.
We have to stick to the existing agenda, but
I mean, I'm not agenda. I meant work plan. Sorry, just to have it on the work plan that we plan to give a report next month, or not even really worth doing because.
Yeah, because it's a standing item on our agenda. It's always available to you, so you can speak to anything that's listed currently in our work plan.
Okay.
Great.
Okay, so then going to 9A. Randall, do you have a report on the EFA for us?
Yeah, I was actually off the grid this whole past month, so I was in the mountains in Utah. Jim, were you at the meeting?
Yeah, and
or perhaps.
Well, I'm trying to show you. I hope I can pull it up. The Friends of the Arts has created 5 banners.
Yes, that's what I wanted to know.
I thought I had it here. And I wanted to show you the images of the banners, but let's see. I'm not seeing it. Well, Friends of the Arts created 5 banners that are just absolutely beautiful, and they recognize first responders, and they basically say thank you. And 5 different artists came together and created the banners, and it's a mix of painting and graphic design, and they're finished. They're 3 foot by 6 foot, and we're installing them all around the city. 2 are going to go on Encinitas Boulevard at our community center. 1 is going to go next to the Target Shopping Center on the fence of our sports park there. 1 is going to go at the Encinitas Library. 1 is going to go, and we've got 1 additional one that we're trying to place perhaps on either a park site or here at City Hall. We just have to get 1 more approval. And then I think there's another one that's going to go at the Cal Coast Credit Union. I believe that's the bank location in the Vaughn Shopping Center. So you're gonna see actually 6 of these banners up around the city, and they can stay up for an extended period of time. But it's something nice that Friends of the Arts just did to thank medical workers, first responders, frontline employees.
Didn't they put one at the hospital?
Yes, they did a vertical version of the banner, and it's designed by Kristen Francis, and they delivered it last week. And Friends of the Arts brought a bunch of goodies, chocolate, etc., to thank the medical workers, and they actually got a couple photos. So I believe the banners are going to go up probably Wednesday. We were waiting for a storm to pass through. It looks like it's not really going to materialize. We'll also be sending out a news release. You'll see it on social media, and so the EFA will get some play on this.
So not tomorrow, next Wednesday.
No, yeah.
Not day after tomorrow. This Wednesday?
This Wednesday.
Oh, good.
Yeah. That's the plan, to get them up. Good. And so, Randall, I wish I had the images to show for you, but unfortunately, I
haven't seen them yet.
I haven't seen them either.
Send an email, but I don't think. I heard they were really good. We also have a retreat coming up, so I don't know if that's a piece of news, but it looks like the retreat in 2 weeks, so that'll happen before the next commissioners meeting.
I think it's on the 18th.
18th, yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
And I know, as I said earlier, that the EFA was really excited about the news that, things are finally happening with Pacific View. We all agree that it's critically important that space is used, and it's a public survey kind of backed up our opinion as well.
Are you still trying to get the?
No, I'm giving up. Are you guys seeing me flip around? Hopefully you're not.
We're seeing you and the piano.
We're seeing the piano.
Oh my gosh. Okay, sorry. Sarah,
you look very nice. So
I'm not. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm trying to. I thought I was able to locate the doggone thing. Oh, so you can see what? Okay, hold on. Let me run through. I wonder if it's here. Oh, pardon me. Crazy. Not there. Not there. Okay, pardon me. Let's get off this. This is crazy. I'm bopping all around. Okay.
If you find them, can you email them to us?
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, I'll be happy to. I've got it as a PDF. I'll send it out to you.
Okay,
they've been talking about these for 2 months and I haven't seen one either. I'm just dying to see one.
Okay, now I gotta get back to the, geez.
Jim, are you moved back into City Hall? It looks like you're in your office.
Yeah, I am.
So it's all pretty and clean?
Yeah,
nice.
It's beautiful. It's just great.
So moving on to 9B, the Cultural Arts Division report from Jim.
Yeah. There's not much more I can share, unfortunately, about anything else that's going on, but we are actively engaged in the budget process and creating, pulling together our budget requests for our next 2-year cycle. And we're also working on the capital improvement project budget for the next 6 years. So we're trying to plug in all of these various activities and plans that are coming along. So that's what's keeping us busy.
Have they done anything with the sculpture in the parkway or the patio outside the front door?
Yeah, it's staying put, from what I understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is included in the capital improvements, just for information?
Those are projects that usually take longer than a 1 or 2 year period of time. So in other words, our undercrossing projects have been in the capital improvement budget.
Okay.
So public art tends to be in capital improvement.
Okay.
Okay, so I need to share. Need to get back to our budget.
Is there a time frame for the, if I've missed it, I apologize, for the master plan update and ordinance? Is that processing through city staff still?
Yes, I'm working on it, and I'm working with park staff on that. And I apologize for the delay on that. It's just been really difficult with these public art projects happening. They really are all consuming. So it's good to have them happening, but it really, they take priority over everything else because you've got, you know, real hard deadlines to deal with. But we'll have something to you very soon. Okay, go for it. Sorry, go ahead, Irene.
Okay. Well, if that's, thank you for that report. And we can move on to commission member initiated agenda items, of which I don't see any. So I don't think there are any. And future agenda items. So Michael, I know last month you had talked about
Yes.
an agenda item.
Yeah, so basically myself, Jeff, and Navardo, we plan to submit a commission-initiated agenda report for consideration by the full Commission of the Arts at the March public hearing, and the report will address the role of our commission in the development of the Pacific View facility and introduce areas of advocacy for our commission in Pacific View planning. So we have a lot more in the agenda report, but that's what it's going to be about.
Wow.
So that's going to
good. That's perfect.
That's
great.
that's going to be for next month.
That is correct. It'll be for March. We already had it drawn up, but in light of Jennifer coming to educate us on the latest at Pacific View, we decided to table it for March, and now we know a little bit more, and we'll probably revise it further and refine it, and we'll have a report for you guys in March.
Is it possible for you to circulate it to the members before the meeting? So we can take a look at it?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that would be helpful.
Sure. Yeah, as soon as we're finished, I guess we'll send it over to Jim, and then we'll disperse it to the rest of the commission.
Okay, so Michael, we will add that item under 11. We'll add it to the March meeting. That's what you're requesting?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and just to reacquaint you with Brown Act issues, we can't discuss items on an agenda before a meeting. So just keep that in mind for this item that you're bringing forward in March. All right.
Sure.
Excellent.
Okay, so we can't distribute it to the full commission until it's made public, right? But once it's public, then
you can't discuss it.
Well, I know we can't discuss
you can't have
meetings.
I understand that, Jim, but we was asked if we could send it out.
Yes,
distribute it.
Distribute it. Just don't enter into group discussion about it.
Okay, so it can be distributed prior to it being agendized publicly.
Yes, it's your agenda report. You can share that, I imagine, with others.
Okay, so everybody be clear. If it hits you in the email, do not discuss until the meeting, of course.
Well, I believe we can discuss, but not more than 3 people.
2 people, right? 3 people.
Right, but we already have like a subgroup that is drawing up the agenda. So if any one person talks to any one of us about it, yes.
Got it.
Okay.
My lips are sealed.
Just to clarify, if you send it out via email, you should not discuss it. You should wait for the meeting to discuss this. All right.
Understood.
Clarification.
Noted.
Okay.
All right. Super.
Jim, would that wouldn't appear as a staff report on the agenda item?
It is a staff report, that Michael and the ad hoc has created, or his
Okay.
you know, his group. Yeah, and it'll be listed under number 10.
Next month. Okay.
Correct, next month. Sorry, I was referring to 11. I meant, I should have said item 10 on the agenda.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, great. Any other future agenda items? Anybody else? No? Okay, then we can move on to 12, the commissioners' reports. Are there any reports the commissioners want to make? Okay, I'm not hearing anyone, so which is very understandable given the situation we're all in. So I believe we can adjourn the meeting at 6:22 p.m.